Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Sell More Book Show, episode 533A. Why is it 533A? Because I messed up the numbers. And
Oh, no.
really, I know, really, the last 2 weeks were 531 and 532, but I didn't say that in the episode. So maybe at some point we'll have like the lost episodes of the Sell More Book Show. But I'm Brian Cohen from Best Page Forward, joined by Victorine Lieske of The Writing Gals, a fantastic sweet romance author who is teaching all over, including on cruises, which we'll get into. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Brian. It's just been a wonderful time. I just got back from a cruise with Michelle and Christine, and we were doing some planning for our cruise coming up in January. And it was just an amazing week full of relaxation and writing. It was awesome.
Oh, I love that. I have one, never been on a cruise, and two, never certainly been on a writing or marketing cruise. So I think, I feel like I build a question in here later, but like, who do you think is like the ideal person you'd want on this cruise that you think is going to get the most out of this kind of thing?
Oh, okay. So our ideal cruise participant would be someone who is just excited to write and wants to learn more about how to write to market and how to sell more books.
I love it. Because there's definitely some people out there that don't want to learn how to write to market.
That's true. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Yeah. So definitely writing to market people, look to this cruise. And you can find out info at the Writing Gals Facebook group, which we'll link to in the show notes. And you guys have your virtual conference coming up in October.
Yes, we do. We're so excited about that as well. We've got Kiki, who is our keynote. She is fantastic. She writes as Emma St. Clair. And so if you've heard of Emma St. Clair, of course, because she just sells phenomenally well. And she's a fantastic speaker. So I'm really excited about her keynote.
Oh, agreed. Kiki has co-hosted the show, and she attended the first ever live show we did back like the second or third year we did the podcast in Austin, Texas. And that's where I met her, and she'll be a great keynote speaker. She's so fantastic.
She is.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, let's get into the fun. We've got all sorts of cool stuff coming up. I am going to hint at this here. I think this will be the first place I mention it. And so you'll be like the first person outside of my team, Victorine, to even hear about it.
Nice.
So we're coming up on our 20th ad challenge.
Nice.
So 20 quarters in a row, we will have done these challenges, but we're doing it a little bit differently this time. We're just going to give you access to everything. So instead of just the challenge, because people are like, they take the challenge and they're like, oh, I got the free access to ad school. And it's like, you don't even know. The challenge is not all of ad school, and there's so much to ad school. So we're going to give you a sneak peek of ad school starting around July 9th all the way to July 22nd or so.
Oh, that's exciting.
So stay tuned. Because of the way we have everything linked up, we're not sending a link out till July 9th. So, but yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. So, set your calendars for that next challenge.
That sounds amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. So, awesome. Let's go into the previous week's question. I might ask you this too, Victorine. So, the question was, what do you think is the best way for writers to improve their craft? Don Bishop said, write, study the craft too, get ideas from podcasts, get actual impartial feedback on what you've written, and don't take it personally, but remember to keep writing because you have to exercise the muscle to make it stronger. Yes. Patty Brassard Jefferson said, 1, read your genre. 2, join a critique group of people who write and read in your genre. This one is good for craft motivation and accountability. And Zach Guido said there's a technique called copy work, in which you take a particularly well-written passage or a few pages from a very well-written book and you copy it word for word, writing it out by hand. Sounds a bit odd when you first hear about it, but it actually works really well. Reminds me of the movie Finding Forrester.
Mm.
But yeah, so Victorine, how do you think authors get better at craft?
Oh, definitely critique, because you can, and not only just getting critique, but giving critique to others really helps you, because you can see what other people are doing a lot easier, that this isn't working right, a lot easier than you can what you're doing that isn't working right. And so critiquing other people helped me tremendously when I first started writing. And then
That's awesome.
getting critiques is super helpful as well. And then just going to classes. I know that may sound boring, but attending conferences and going to classes, I just absolutely love it. And it helps to know what kind of a learner you are. Because if you're an auditory learner, listening to people give a lecture on something is very helpful to me. Reading isn't as helpful to me. So if I and I have a bunch of craft books that I have, but it helps me to even just read it out loud. Then I can hear it and process it better for me. So those are the ways that I've learned, and they're super helpful to me.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think those are some really awesome tips. I think as much as we are introverts, many of us, I'm not, but many of us are introverts in the community, and we don't want to necessarily have that interaction with people. That interaction with people in a critique group can be scary but helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, folks, you can answer the question of the week. I've been bugging everybody with the @everyone tag so that y'all answer the question of the week. I guess you don't mind it too much because then you answer it when I do it. So hopefully you don't mind. And so you can always check that out in the Sell More Book Show After Party Facebook group. You know I like a happy story, listeners, but Victorine, we do have to cover this. We've got a little bit of a tough one, but a helpful one. Are you ready for today's story?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. So today's story is called Amazon the Terminator. Quote, through research and digging, we were able to find some of the major red flags that accounts have been giving Amazon for termination, Dave Chesson says in his latest YouTube video. According to Chesson, when Amazon terminates your account, it's because you have too many things in common with known scammers. Unfortunately, Amazon's scam detection algorithm is nowhere near perfect, and even the best of authors can be wrongfully caught. Because Amazon's emails rarely tell you exactly what they think you did, you should check to see if you accidentally made common terms of service or metadata mistakes. For instance, if you use popular copyrighted names and terms, including those of Amazon's own programs, like Kindle and Kindle Unlimited in your metadata, it could be a mark against you. Another frequent problem is using incorrect book cover titles and subtitles. Quote, this one is one of the biggest violators for many authors, end quote, says Chesson. You might not realize it, but Amazon requires that the title and subtitle of your book be on your cover. Many authors list a subtitle on their book page, but don't include it on the cover. Yes, many authors get away with it until they don't. Amazon continues to update their spot checking algorithms, which is why things like this can be fine for a long time, then suddenly be a problem. Quote, ultimately, many of the rules are based on ensuring that you aren't misleading readers, says Chesson. Remember that the Amazon system is probably grading the likelihood that something could be misleading, and if you have enough of it, it may trigger the violation, end quote. For more common problems, metadata rules, Chesson's personal hunches on the causes for account terminations, and how to get an account back, check out the link in our show notes. Victorine, so I feel like I've seen it in your group. I know I've seen it in my group. I've seen it in 20 books, in Millionaire Mastermind, people getting their accounts terminated. Now,
yes.
I think the first thing to consider is that most of the time these terminations can be reversed, which is good.
Yes.
But man, oh man, it feels permanent. It feels scary.
It's terrifying. Yeah.
What were
I
your
have
thoughts
not
on hearing about this?
I have not experienced it myself, but I know
Yeah.
quite a few authors who have, and it is absolutely terrifying because they terminate you, and then there's no way to actually talk to anybody about it, you
I
know?
know.
And so you're like, how do I contact them? The contact me button is gone. You know, and so it can be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this a lot, and for a while, I'll get into this in a minute. For a while, I was trying to use my contacts at Amazon from doing some work with Amazon over the years. But even that was not an amazing system. They're just, and I've every time they have asked me, what are some pain points you see in the community? They're always asking that. They always say it that way. What are the pain points you see? I always bring this up. Is that
Yes.
we're, because they want more people to publish, more people to spend on ads. And I say, look, if people are afraid they're going to lose their account, they don't want to be in the hole several $1,000s on the ads. And that still, I think, is the biggest thing Amazon needs to change. Now, I don't envy them
Yeah.
because I can imagine there's 10,000 illegal books that are being uploaded every single day.
Right.
And they need some sort of automation.
Yes.
So
Definitely to protect the reader, right?
to protect the reader, yeah, to protect the reader and to protect other authors.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen so many copycats out there, and it's just, they've got to be fending off thousands of these every second.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I've got a
I
hot
agree.
potato of wisdom question for you, Victorine.
All right.
So what do you see? So obviously Dave brought up some things. What do you see authors commonly doing that could get them in hot water with Amazon?
I think the most common is not having your subtitle on the cover. I think that's number one.
Yeah.
But I also see another one that I see is people putting like reviews and other types of things in their description, and they don't realize that that also is not allowed. And so I think just going in and reading that page where it says this is what's allowed, this is what isn't allowed on Amazon is really helpful for authors because it spells everything out.
Yeah, it's, you got to follow the rules, right?
Yes.
And the reviews thing, I've been telling people this for years. Especially those with like 6 reviews that are copied from
Yes.
Amazon. Technically, you're not allowed to do that.
Yes, that is correct.
I think you've got a question for me.
I do have a question for you. So, what should an author do if they get the dreaded termination email?
All right, so if you get the dreaded termination email, I would recommend you prepare a few options because there is a best option, which is to calmly as you can create a very brief email that you send to the CEO's inbox, which is Andy at Amazon.com, including the case number of the issue, your Amazon number, your ASIN, the email associated with the KDP account, and a subject line like KDP account terminated in error. So you want to make sure that it's really error. It's like, oh, this is no big deal because you don't want to make a big fuss about it, which is terrible, but yes. And you send that over to the executive team. At the same time, you want to be building up other things. You can definitely get friends to email. I believe it's complaints at Amazon.com. You have to look that up. Filing complaints on your behalf. You don't necessarily need to go into that unless you get a rejection from the executive team, but you want to start like preparing. You want to tell people on social media, rally them to your cause.
Yes.
There have been times where people shared on TikTok and got lots and lots of people to share about that. Was it one of the writing gals? I feel like the original
might have been Amy.
Yeah,
because Amy got her account banned for just a minute or two.
I remember
it might have been
Amy went to TikTok and
yeah,
and got a lot of attention from there. But yeah, like I feel like those are the couple things to keep in mind. But, authors sometimes have had to take legal action. And usually Amazon folds immediately if there's any kind of legal whatever, but you have to pay some money for it. That's kind of level 3. But hopefully, just from level 1, just from reaching out to the executive team, especially if you keep it like it's no big deal, tap into your ennui if you've seen Inside Out 2. But you want to be as straightforward as possible, give them the info, let them take care of it, and hopefully it'll get dealt with.
Yes. And just be aware that I don't know of any legitimate author who has gotten their account, shut down that has not been able to get it reinstated. So keeping that in mind will help you calm down and know that this is something you can deal with. And
yeah. We all have to take a breath, right?
It's scary though. It really is.
It is. But great post from Dave on this. Thank you always to Dave at Kindlepreneur for putting this kind of stuff together.
Yes.
We've got the lightning round. I forgot to mention this to you, Victorine, but I'm sure you're ready to do a lightning sound. Are you ready to do a lightning sound?
I am ready.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. My sound is kaboom.
Ooh.
And that's because we actually had lightning hit a pole right up the street from our house. And that's exactly how it sounded.
Kaboom. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that it didn't make it closer than the pole. Oh my goodness.
It blew our transistor in.
Oh yeah.
Power,
I saw one explode once, or a transformer explode, and that was some scary stuff. Let's get into the lightning round. So, Victorine, according to The Guardian, traditional publishing has cut back on marketing and publicity for books. But some of us out here have a TradPub contract. If you have a TradPub contract, how should you consider approaching marketing?
That is a great question, because it really is completely different from the indie marketing and TradPub marketing. I would say, depending on who you're published with, it kind of depends on what route you want to go. I know a lot of authors who are published with like small publishers that are really niche, and they do a lot of in-person events. A lot of people who are published through like Deseret Books, so they go to Deseret bookstores, and that's where they do their live events and things like that. If you're TradPubbed with maybe a really large publisher, you're going to want to look at maybe the Barnes and Nobles and places like that, and do some in-person events at some bigger chain stores, things like that. But I think you have to think about it a little bit differently when your books are in bookstores versus when you are an indie author and you're focusing more on the online aspect of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And hopefully, y'all TradPub folks maybe just come over to see us over in Indie Land, and we'll give you some advice in my group or in the Writing Gals or wherever. But I'm ready for my question.
All right. Your question is, also according to The Guardian, Meta, or Facebook, discussed buying Simon & Schuster. What do you think would have happened if that had come to pass?
Oh my goodness. If Facebook had bought Simon & Schuster, I think that they would have tried a lot of interesting things. We would have seen more book-related features on Facebook. But that isn't something that us indies would have been able to take advantage of. It would have been very focused on the books that they got. There were rumblings in the Post in The Guardian that they were going to use it to train their AI, which, makes sense. Get a lot of words, train the AI. If that had been what happened, I am sure that folks under contract would have been pretty upset about that, and it would have led to a lot of bad press for Meta. And I think in the long run, Meta would not have been happy with the purchase it made for those reasons.
I think you're right. Good predictions.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So You have a cruise coming up next year with the
Yes.
Writing Gals. What do you think are the benefits of combining a vacation style trip with a learning opportunity?
Oh, I think there's tons of benefits, especially on a cruise, because on a cruise, you have absolutely everything taken care of for you. So you have no cooking, no cleaning, absolutely nothing to worry about. You are away from everybody else. So if you're a mom with kids, you are away from all of that. You are pretty much unreachable. Now, if you buy the internet plan, don't tell people that they can reach you. Just say, I'm going on a cruise and I am unreachable. And that makes it absolutely amazing, because then you can focus on going to the classes that we'll have, and you can focus on your own writing and getting your writing done. And we'll also be in close quarters with each other. So we'll get to know each other really well. And the Writing Gals will be available for any questions that you have about your own books or your marketing or anything like that. So it's just going to be awesome.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And I can see some benefits, especially if you don't tell your family you got the internet plan.
That's right.
Love that. Love that. All right, next question. I'm ready.
All right. Question for you is, if you could hold a retreat for authors anywhere, where would you do it and why?
All right, so I know like pie in the sky, really cool kind of retreats would be in places I'd want to go. Like, I've never been to Italy. I love Ireland. There's like Hawaii. But currently in this stage of my life, I would do any of those places if I could bring my family along.
Yes.
But if it's, if it would be hard to bring my family along, I'm lucky to live in a nice place in the Chapel Hill, North Carolina area where it's warm and green and beautiful and relatively cheap compared to some places in the country.
Okay.
And so number one would probably be in Chapel Hill. But if I can bring my family along so that I'm, giving a good time to my wife and daughter, and anything is fair game, even a cruise, perhaps.
That's right. You can totally bring your kids on a cruise. It's it's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I've heard good things. So last question of the lightning round. You are the author of Writing a Romance Novel for Dummies.
Yes.
Was there anything your publisher or editor left out that you would include in a new edition today?
We tried really hard to make it put all the advice in there that would be as timeless as possible. And so I guess the biggest thing that I tried to hit on in that book is stay current with what you're doing, right? Keep up with the books that are selling really well right now, read them, and keep up with the current, what everybody wants to read right now. And that's how you will stay on top of the game. Because I know a lot of authors who they read a lot in the 80s and 90s. And so everything they're writing is based on what they read in the 80s and 90s. And it's like, yeah, that's great, but that kind of, shifted, and that's kind of the writing of the past now. And you got to keep up with what readers are wanting right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh, such a good point. I got to read that book at some point.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, of course. Awesome. Well, we've made it to the end of the lightning round. We need a question of the week. Obviously, we could ask about these account closures, but I like to think positively whenever possible. What about? I usually defer to the host, but what if we go on this retreat direction and we ask, aside from the amazing Writing Gals cruise coming up, where would you want to go to a writing retreat?
I love that question.
Awesome.
That's
I'm going to
great
go write
question.
it down. I'm literally saying, aside from the amazing Writing Gals cruise in January, right?
Yes, January.
In January. Where would you want to go for a writing retreat? You can answer the question of the week over at the Sell More Book Show After Party Facebook group. Victorine, I mean, we talked about the cruise, we talked about the conference. You guys have a podcast too, right?
We do. We have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
And we're on there. And we have lots of great free wisdom on our YouTube channel. We also have what's called the Writing Gals Academy, which is basically we took a bunch of our conference classes from past conferences, put them in a teachable account that you can access for only $9.95 a month, which is amazing. Tons of information in there for just a low subscription fee a month. And you can subscribe for a month, watch what you want, and then unsubscribe, and then come back later if you want to watch more. So
that's awesome.
That's great.
Great. And you can all find anything from this at the Writing Gals Facebook group, and y'all have a website too, right?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. What's that URL?
Yep, it's just thewritinggals.com.
That's what I thought. I just didn't want to mess it up live. So.
No worries.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Victorine. It's been so great having you here. And you'll be back next week too.
Yes, sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, for Victorine, I'm Brian. Have a great week of book selling, everybody. And we'll be back next week for episode 534A because I can't count. So bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.